George Washington. George
Hmm.
Washington is known for fighting in both the French and the Indian War, and also for leading the Continental Army in the Revolutionary War, where the U.S. gained its independence from Great Britain.
Wow, I'm observing something. It means the United States had independence in 1776, and the president ruled from 1789 to 1797.
Yes.
How? So there was no president?
This is their first president, right?
Yeah, this is the very first president. Yeah, let's go. Let's start it again.
George Washington. George Washington is known for fighting in both the French and the Indian War, and also for leading the Continental Army in the Revolutionary War, where the U.S. gained its independence from Great Britain. He was the president of the Constitutional Convention, where the new U.S. Constitution started being written, and he established the federal court system, separate from individual state courts. He helped
Wow.
usher in the Bill of Rights, which added to the Constitution specific guarantees of personal freedoms, rights.
You know what is Bill of Rights?
Bill of Rights.
Yeah, Bill of Rights. You know those amendment videos that we watch
Yeah, I
on that?
know, I
Yeah,
know.
the first 10 amendments are called the Bill of Rights.
Yeah, I saw it in the comment section.
Yeah, so that's where I actually learned it. Okay.
Federal court system, separate from individual state courts. He helped usher in the Bill of Rights, which added to the Constitution specific guarantees of personal freedoms, rights, and clear limitations on the government's power. He also
Wow.
signed the Jay Treaty, which helped normalize trade relations with Great Britain, and the Proclamation of Neutrality, which kept America neutral during European conflicts. He was the one to choose the title Mr. President, and he retired in 1797. John
Wow.
Adams. Being the first vice president, John Adams successfully defended British soldiers involved in the Boston Massacre and appointed John Marshall to the Supreme Court, who was a highly influential figure. His decision to keep the nation out of war with France and his peaceful transition of power to his political rival, Thomas Jefferson, are highlights of his presidency. However, he
Wow.
faced criticism and challenges during his presidency because of the Alien and Sedition Acts, which he signed. These included the Naturalization Act, which made it harder to become a citizen, the Alien Friends Act, which allowed the president to imprison and deport non-citizens, the Alien Enemies Act, which gave the president additional powers to detain.
So I'm gonna pause it there. If you're enjoying the video, I am honored. To my left is my lady Tekla. Say hi, lady.
Hi, family.
So
Hi,
we're-
lady.
So we are watching. We are actually reacting to this video from the west coast of Africa, and this video today is every U.S. president and their highlight. So one particular thing about every U.S. president,
Wow.
probably the most important thing about each president.
Okay.
Yeah, please try watching the whole video or half of it with us.
Yes.
Let's go.
Sedition Acts, which he signed. These included the Naturalization Act, which made it harder to become a citizen, the Alien Friends Act, which allowed the president to imprison and deport non-citizens, the Alien Enemies Act, which gave the president additional powers to detain non-citizens during times of war, and finally the Sedition Act, which criminalized false and malicious statements about the federal government. Thomas
Wow.
Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson is known for the Louisiana Purchase, which doubled the size of the United States. He played a big part in the 1776 Revolution and took the lead on the Declaration of Independence. Jefferson focused on reducing national debt and limiting the size of the federal government by cutting the military and lowering taxes. However, his tenure wasn't without controversy, as he faced criticism for the Embargo Act of 1807, which harmed American merchants by stopping all trade with Europe during the Napoleonic Wars. James Madison. James Madison is often called the father of the Constitution for his pivotal
Wow.
role in drafting and promoting the U.S. Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and setting up the federal system. He continued the Democratic-Republican policy of weakening the federal government and keeping a small military force. During his presidency, he led the nation through the War of 1812 against Great Britain, caused by the British Navy's attacks on American merchants' ships. Despite early setbacks, such as when the British burned Washington, D.C. in 1814, and when some New England states threatened to abandon the USA, the war ultimately bolstered national pride and government legitimacy, ending with a peace treaty. Madison's tenure also saw the establishment of the Second Bank of the United States and the beginning of the era of good feelings. James Monroe.
Wow.
James Monroe served as president during a period known as the
I think that James Monroe, I've always heard this name, but I don't know what is particular about him. I'm excited to hear that.
Madison's tenure also saw the establishment of the Second Bank of the United States and the beginning of the era of good feelings. James Monroe. James Monroe served as president during a period known as the Era of Good Feelings. This era was characterized by the collapse of the Federalist Party, leaving the dominant Democratic-Republican Party without opposition, and by a surge in national patriotism. Monroe is best known for the Monroe Doctrine, a pivotal policy declared in 1823 that warned European nations against colonizing or interfering with the Americas, asserting U.S. influence in the Western Hemisphere. He helped negotiate for Louisiana and also added Florida through a treaty with Spain. His presidency also saw the Missouri Compromise, which attempted to balance the power between slave and free states. Monroe's administration, however, faced criticism for its handling of economic issues such as the Panic of 1819, which was the first widespread and durable financial crisis in the United States that slowed westward expansion in the Cotton Belt, and was followed by a general collapse of the American economy that persisted through 1821. John Quincy Adams.
Is it actually possible that you can rule as a president and you will not be criticized for one thing or the other?
Absolutely no way. Yes.
Because it's like since it started, each and every president is having his own criticism.
Yeah, it's a fact, right? There's a saying that goes, if you want to be loved by everybody, don't be a leader. Go and sell ice cream. Yeah. So obviously people are going to always get you criticized for something.
1819, which was the first widespread and durable financial crisis in the United States that slowed westward expansion in the Cotton Belt, and was followed by a general collapse of the American economy that persisted through 1821. John Quincy Adams. Adams was a strong advocate for significant federal investment in infrastructure, such as roads and canals, as part of the American system. He also took a strong stance on civil liberties and education reform. However, his presidency was often overshadowed by the controversy of the corrupt bargain, where Adams secured his presidency with the help of Henry Clay, the Speaker of the House, whom he then promoted as Secretary of State, leading to accusations of a rigged deal. This event led to intense resistance from Congress, particularly from Andrew Jackson's supporters, who attempted to block all of Adams's proposals. Despite these challenges, his presidency is also remembered for his later role as a congressman, since after his presidential term, and during Andrew Jackson's presidency in 1830, Adams became a vocal opponent of slavery and a fervent supporter of the abolition movement. Andrew Jackson. Andrew Jackson believed the president was the direct representative of the common man, and he was known for his strong personality. When someone tried to assassinate him, he beat the shooter senseless with his cane. He is remembered for the Indian removal.
Somebody tried to assassinate him, he beat him with a cane. Say, go home and don't think about those kind of horrible things. That's bad. That's bad behavior. Don't do that.
Jesus. Oh my goodness.
Serious retaliation.
And people always want to assassinate
Andrew
him
Jackson
one way or
believed
the
the
other.
president was the direct representative of the common man, and he was known for his strong personality. When someone tried to assassinate him, he beat the shooter senseless with his cane. He is remembered for the Indian Removal Act, which led to the forced relocation of Native American tribes and the tragic Trail of Tears, and also for beating the British as the general in the Battle of New Orleans in 1815. Jackson also dismantled the Bank of the United States, viewing it as a corrupt institution that favored the wealthy. He also generally wanted to keep the federal government weak, and he vetoed every bill he didn't like. Martin Van Buren. Van Buren was the first president born as a U.S. citizen and was a key architect of the Democratic Party. His presidency occurred during the Panic of 1830.
If he's the first president born as the U.S. citizen, it means the other ones were not U.S. citizens. Or how?
The other ones were born before the United States was founded. I understand it.
Yes.
So they are the one that founded the United States. Means they were born before the United States was founded.
I understand.
Yeah. So this guy at this point was born when the United States was already founded.
When they're ready for the struggle.
Yeah.
Van Buren was the first president born as a U.S. citizen and was a key architect of the Democratic Party. His presidency occurred during the Panic of 1837, a major economic depression that he inherited from the Jackson administration's economic policies. Van Buren's response, which included maintaining Jackson's hard money policies, was unpopular and ineffective at halting the economic downturn. He also opposed the annexation of Texas because he thought it would upset the balance between slave and free states. William Henry Harrison. William Henry Harrison had the shortest tenure of any American president, serving just 31 days in 1841 before dying of pneumonia. He is generally known for his wins against the Indians, as well as his military exploits at the Battle of Tippecanoe. His death highlighted the importance of the presidential line of succession, eventually leading to changes in the procedures for presidential succession in the U.S. Constitution. John Tyler. John Tyler was the first vice president to become president due to the death of his predecessor. Tyler's presidency is most notable for his annexation of Texas in 1845, which contributed to the buildup toward the Mexican-American War. He faced significant opposition from his own party, and when he vetoed the bill to make a new national bank, he was actually expelled from it, becoming the only president without a party after George Washington. James Polk. James Polk is known for his strong leadership during the Mexican-American War, which expanded the U.S. to the west, gaining parts of New Mexico, Utah, Nevada, Arizona, California, Texas, and western Colorado. He also settled the Oregon boundary dispute with Britain. When the new territories were gained, the Northerners wanted them to be free, while the Southerners wanted them to be slave territory. Polk didn't address the situation and left the matter for the future president. Zachary Taylor. Zachary Taylor was a career military officer before becoming president. His brief tenure was dominated by the issues left unaddressed by Polk surrounding the territories acquired during the Mexican-American War, with rising tensions between slave and free states. Taylor was a slave owner who sought to hold the Union together by admitting California as a free state and establishing a few new territories where slavery could be decided later. Millard Fillmore. Fillmore is often remembered for signing the Compromise of 1850, which annoyed both Southerners and Northerners. It included the Fugitive Slave Act, which required the return of escaped slaves to their owners, even in free states. This act was highly controversial, and Fillmore didn't get the 1852 presidential nomination. Franklin Pierce. His administration is marked by his endorsement of the Kansas-Nebraska Act, which allowed residents of those territories to decide for themselves whether to allow slavery, effectively repealing the Missouri Compromise. This led to violent conflict in Kansas between pro-slavery and anti-slavery settlers, known as Bleeding Kansas. Pierce's policies are, in general, criticized for helping the American Civil War. He facilitated the Gadsden Purchase from Mexico, acquiring a region now part of Arizona and New Mexico to enable the construction of a southern transcontinental railroad. He is also notable as the only elected president who was denied renomination by his own party due to controversies during his administration. James Buchanan. James Buchanan is often ranked as one of the least effective presidents due to his inability to prevent the southern states from seceding from the USA. His tenure saw the Dred Scott decision, which ruled that Congress could not ban slavery in the territories, further polarizing the nation. He thought that the Constitution protected slavery, and he hated abolitionists. Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln is known as the first president of the modern Republican Party, which disliked slavery. He led the United States through the Civil War, its greatest moral, constitutional, and political crisis. Under his leadership, the Union was preserved, and the issue of slavery was fundamentally resolved with the Emancipation Proclamation and the passage of the 13th Amendment, which abolished slavery. He was assassinated in 1865. Andrew Johnson. Andrew Johnson's presidency was marked by disputes with Congress on how to reintegrate southern states into the Union. However, his frequent vetoes of congressional bills, which Congress often overrode, led to significant conflicts. These tensions culminated when Johnson violated the Tenure of Office Act, a law that prohibited the president from removing civil officers without senatorial consent, by dismissing a government official, leading to his impeachment, though he was acquitted by one Senate vote. During his term, the U.S. purchased Alaska from Russia. Johnson's contentious relationship with Congress resulted in a period where Congress dominated governance, relegating presidents to a secondary role for the next 30 years. Ulysses Grant. Grant is best known for his efforts to protect the civil rights of African Americans during Reconstruction. He endorsed the 15th Amendment, which allowed African Americans to vote. His administration actively fought against the Ku Klux Klan, and he worked to enforce civil rights laws in the South. However, Grant's presidency was also marred by numerous scandals and corruption, although he personally was never implicated in any wrongdoing. His foreign policy achievements included the Treaty of Washington, which settled border disputes and war claims between the U.S. and Great Britain. Rutherford Hayes. Hayes ended Reconstruction through the Compromise of 1877, which resolved the disputed 1876 presidential election in his favor, in exchange for withdrawing federal troops from the South.
And I know that the US is actually way older than our country. We got our independence from Britain and France in 1960. France and Britain 1960 and 1961 respectively. And
since then, how many presidents have ruled?
Two.
Jesus. Hey.
I mean, the other president ruled from 1960 to 1982. That is 22 years. And the other brother, who escaped from the seminary, came into the presidency and decided to rule it for the rest of the time. He's been ruling for the past 43 years. And he's still at it. Probably by the time he's done, he would have ruled for 50 years.
Yeah, that would be 50 years.
Half a century, bro. These are presidents that definitely just go for 8 years or so. We are living in a sad situation over here.
Hayes ended Reconstruction through the Compromise of 1877, which resolved the disputed 1876 presidential election in his favor in exchange for withdrawing federal troops from the South. This effectively ended the enforcement of civil rights protections for African Americans in the South, leading to the establishment of Jim Crow laws, which were a series of local laws that promoted segregation. James Garfield's tenure was tragically short, ending after just 200 days when he was assassinated. Despite his brief time in office, Garfield made an impact with his strong advocacy for civil service reform and education rights for African Americans. He supported measures to prevent corruption in government hiring, although his assassination halted these efforts. Chester Arthur, who was initially viewed skeptically since he handed out government jobs to secure political support before his presidency, surprised the nation by advocating and enforcing civil service reform. The Pendleton Civil Service Reform Act, passed during his administration, established that government jobs should be awarded based on merit rather than political affiliation and focused on modernizing the U.S. Navy and reforming the tariff system. Grover Cleveland is the only president to serve 2 non-consecutive terms. Cleveland dealt with the challenges of the economic depression during his second term, resisting the pressure to inflate the currency and advocating for the gold standard. He also opposed high tariffs, pensions for Civil War claims, and fought against corruption and patronage in government. Cleveland's stance on the Pullman strike, sending federal troops to break the strike, drew criticism from labor unions. During his terms, Congress attempted to limit his power by restricting his ability to fire people, but he led a public battle and regained this presidential authority. Cleveland also set a new record for vetoes, opposing any legislation that he perceived as giving special treatment to any group or individual. Benjamin Harrison. He is remembered for the Sherman Antitrust Act, a landmark decision to prohibit monopolies and cartels to increase economic competitiveness. His tenure also saw the admission of North Dakota, South Dakota, Montana, Washington, Idaho, and Wyoming. 6 new states in total, which makes it more than any other presidency. Harrison supported protective tariffs through the McKinley Tariff, which raised duties on foreign goods to promote the American industry. He also expanded the federal money supply to cause higher inflation with the goal of helping farmers with a lot of debt. All of these changes, though, resulted in the economy tanking. William McKinley played a key role in leading the United States to victory in the Spanish-American War, which resulted in the U.S. acquiring territories like Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippines. This victory marked the emergence of the U.S. as a world power and forced other countries in the Pacific to respect U.S. trade rights in China. McKinley was also a strong advocate of protectionism, supporting tariffs.
This is when Uncle Sam stuck his head out and said, "Hey guys, here is the new boss in town. You have a new sheriff in town."
Yeah.
Oh, can imagine. That one was that 1897.
Marked the emergence of the U.S. as a world power and forced other countries in the Pacific to respect U.S. trade rights in China. McKinley was also a strong advocate of protectionism, supporting tariffs to protect domestic industries from foreign competition. As a matter of fact, he was the proposer of the McKinley Tariff, signed by Benjamin Harrison. He was assassinated in 1901. Theodore Roosevelt is highly regarded for his energetic personality, his progressive policies, and his commitment to conservation, establishing numerous national parks, forests, and monuments to preserve America's natural resources. His domestic policies emphasized the square deal, balancing the interests of business, consumers, and labor. Internationally, he is known for his big stick diplomacy, which consists of negotiating peacefully but also having strength in case things go wrong, and the construction of the Panama Canal. As part of his square deal, Roosevelt implemented new food and drug safety regulations to protect consumers. And during his presidency, the Federal Employers' Liability Act was made, being one of the first laws that offered compensations for injuries. It's thanks to laws like these that people who have been unjustly injured can refer to law firms to get compensated, even though in practice, many of them require a lot of paperwork, scheduled appointments, and high costs, making it a slow and costly process. Thankfully, there's a law firm that makes the process much simpler. You can work with them online without having to visit any offices or schedule any appointments with a free unless you win policy, enabling everyone to get what they deserve. And quite frankly, it can be a lot, as some injuries can be worth millions. You pay them nothing unless they win your case. And that's the biggest injury law firm in America, Morgan & Morgan, today's sponsor. Being a really big law firm, Morgan & Morgan has the resources to fight for the best results, not settling for lowball offers that are often made from health insurance companies. For example, they've achieved a $12 million compensation in Florida for a life-altering car crash, which is 34 times the highest insurance offer, and a $26 million compensation in Philadelphia, which is 40 times the highest insurance offer. If you ever got seriously injured, your case could be worth millions, and you're only a few clicks away from potentially changing your life. It's so easy. You can start your claim now with Morgan & Morgan at www.forthepeople.com/TPE. The link can be found in the description or by scanning the QR code on screen from your phone's camera. Thanks again to Morgan & Morgan for sponsoring this video. Going back to...
All right, please, we are going to leave the link to the original video in the description, and please consider checking out his channel and supporting him. This is the best way we can support him.
Yeah, please don't forget to do that.
Thank you.
So very much.
Let's step back a bit. Yep.
Scanning the QR code on screen from your phone's camera. Thanks again to Morgan & Morgan for sponsoring this video. Going back to Roosevelt, he also declared that the U.S. was the policeman of the Western Hemisphere, and he won the Nobel Prize for Peace for his role in mediating the end of the Russo-Japanese War. William Howard Taft. Taft continued some of Roosevelt's progressive policies, and his administration worked on strengthening the Interstate Commerce Commission, improving postal service, and expanding foreign investments. Taft supported the passage of the 16th Amendment, which allowed the creation of a federal income tax. He also filed more antitrust suits than his predecessor, continuing to enforce regulations against monopolies. Furthermore, Taft expanded U.S. influence in South America through increased trading, enhancing economic ties with the region. However, his support for certain tariffs and his cautious approach to reform led to a split with Roosevelt and the Progressive Republicans, significantly impacting his popularity and leading to his defeat in his re-election bid. Woodrow Wilson.
Woodrow
Wilson led the United States through World War I. His leadership on the home front included significant progressive reforms, such as the Federal Reserve Act, which established the Federal Reserve System as the central bank of the U.S., the Clayton Antitrust Act, which defines unethical business practices like price fixing and monopolies, and the first federal progressive income tax. Internationally, Wilson is known for his 14 points, a statement of principles for peace that was to be used for peace negotiations in order to end World War I and the League of Nations, an early attempt at a global organization aimed at ensuring peace. Despite...
When we were in Form 5, we did history and we did the 14 points of Woodrow Wilson.
What was it about?
I don't remember. I don't remember, but I think he was a big isolationist. He was a big isolationist. He did not want the U.S. to interfere in any wars out of the United States. Yeah, and I've forgotten the 14 points. It's 8 years ago.
Chai. So you remember even?
Yeah.
To end World War I and the League of Nations, an early attempt at a global organization aimed at ensuring peace. Despite these efforts, the U.S. Senate refused to allow the country to join the League. Wilson also reduced tariffs and extended regulations for big businesses. Warren Harding. His presidency was characterized by a return to normalcy after the hardships of World War I and after the many changes made by Woodrow Wilson. Harding's tenure, however, is often remembered for its scandals, notably the Teapot Dome scandal, which involved the secret leasing of federal oil reserves in exchange for personal bribes. Harding implemented pro-business policies and eased off on regulations, promoting economic growth. He was the first president to propose spending levels for the executive branch, thanks to the budgeting law he helped enact, which also assisted in cutting government costs. He was heavily criticized for vetoing the bonus bill, which would have provided benefits for the veterans from World War I. Calvin Coolidge. Known for his quiet demeanor and frugal approach, Coolidge's presidency emphasized a small government and opposed government intervention in the free market. He was president during the economic boom of the 1920s, and he is credited with restoring public confidence in the White House after the scandals of his predecessor. He was a firm believer in reducing taxes and government debts, and he forged a closer connection with Americans through regular radio addresses. Coolidge vetoed bills that would provide direct government relief to struggling farmers, maintaining that the government should not interfere with the free market. The new wealth and lack of regulations led to risky investments by citizens, setting the stage for the stock market crash and the onset of the Great Depression. Herbert Hoover. Herbert Hoover presided over the beginning of the Great Depression, following the stock market crash of 1929. His policies were often seen as inadequate in the face of the economic crisis. In fact, Hoover believed in limited government intervention, which made his responses seem insufficient as unemployment soared and economic conditions worsened. Franklin Roosevelt. Roosevelt was the only U.S. president elected to 4 terms and led the country through the Great Depression and World War II. His New Deal, a series of economic and social reforms, helped alleviate the worst effects of the Great Depression, instituting major governmental institutions like Social Security. His leadership during World War II was crucial, transitioning the U.S. to a wartime economy and establishing the U.S. as a leading world power. Harry Truman. Truman's presidency was marked by significant events in U.S. and world history, including the conclusion of World War II and the beginning of the Cold War. He is known for the Truman Doctrine, which aimed to contain Soviet geopolitical expansion during the Cold War, and for his decision to use atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki to end World War II. Truman also oversaw the Marshall Plan to rebuild Europe and the establishment of NATO. Additionally, his presidency witnessed the outbreak of the Korean War in 1950, where he committed U.S. forces as part of a United Nations effort to defend South Korea from the North Korean invasion. Dwight Eisenhower. Eisenhower was a former World War II general and brought a calm leadership style to the presidency. Eisenhower's domestic policies included the interstate highway system, which revolutionized American transportation. Internationally, he maintained a strong anti-communist stance, supported the containment policy against the Soviet Union, and navigated complex situations such as the Suez Crisis and the end of the Korean War. John Kennedy. Kennedy, famous for his New Frontier agenda and his assassination in 1963, had a brief presidency with impactful initiatives like the Peace Corps and strides in civil rights legislation. Kennedy is best known for his inspirational speeches and good handling of the Cuban Missile Crisis, which brought the world close to nuclear war. Lyndon Johnson. Johnson is celebrated for his domestic policies, particularly the Great Society programs that included Medicare, Medicaid, and the Civil Rights Act of 1964. His tenure significantly advanced civil rights and public welfare in the U.S. However, his foreign policy was marred by the Vietnam War, which escalated under his command. Richard Nixon. Nixon's presidency was a complex period with significant achievements, including the relaxation of relations with the Soviet Union and the opening of diplomatic relations with China. He also oversaw the return of U.S. troops from Vietnam. As for his domestic policies, the most notable one is arguably the creation of the Environmental Protection Agency. However, his administration is most notorious for the Watergate scandal, where several burglars were caught trying to sneak into Nixon's political opponent's headquarters to gain useful information. It's said that Nixon made many efforts to impede the investigation, which led to the famous Supreme Court ruling called United States versus Nixon and his eventual resignation in 1974. Gerald Ford. Ford's tenure is best known for his controversial decision to pardon Nixon, which he believed would help heal the country from the Watergate scandal. This decision likely cost him political support and contributed to his loss in the 1976 election. Ford's presidency also faced economic challenges, including inflation and a recession, which he confronted with reducing taxes and increasing federal spending. He also had to face an upcoming energy crisis, so he made a deal to boost U.S. oil production. Jimmy Carter. He is often noted for his humanitarian and diplomatic.
This Jimmy Carter just died, I think. If it's not a few months ago, it'll be a few weeks ago.
Really?
Yeah, it was above 100. Yeah, he was still alive.
Efforts, both during and after his presidency. Carter's term saw significant events such as the Camp David Accords, which brought peace between Egypt and Israel, and the Iran hostage crisis, which negatively impacted his re-election campaign. Domestically, Carter dealt with energy crises and economic downturns. Despite mixed reviews of his presidency, Carter's post-presidential work with Habitat for Humanity and his advocacy for global health and human rights have enhanced his legacy, earning him a Nobel Peace Prize. Ronald Reagan. Reagan had 2 terms. The first is famous for his economic policies, called Reaganomics, which involved deregulation, cuts in taxes, cuts in government spending, and an increase in defense spending, while the second one was more focused on foreign affairs, with his most famous achievement being a decrease in tensions between the US and the Soviet Union that culminated in the Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty, a treaty that had the goal of reducing each nation's missile force. The treaty was then abandoned by the US during Donald Trump's mandate, as he claimed that the Russians were non-compliant. Reagan survived an assassination attempt after he was shot and wounded on March 30th, 1981. He's also famous for the phrase, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall," referring to the Berlin Wall. George H.W. Bush. Bush's presidency was marked by foreign policy initiatives, notably the Gulf War, where a U.S.-led coalition successfully repelled Iraqi forces from Kuwait. Bush also signed the Americans with Disabilities Act, which was a significant advancement in civil rights legislation protecting the disabled. Economically, he faced a recession and broke his campaign promise of no new taxes, which adversely affected his re-election bid. Bush's foreign affairs skills were highly regarded, but domestic issues ultimately overshadowed his accomplishments. Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton was notable for overseeing a period of substantial economic prosperity and the first budget surpluses in decades. His administration implemented welfare reform and the North American Free Trade Agreement, which has had mixed reviews regarding its impact on American jobs and economic growth. Clinton also faced significant personal and political challenges, including impeachment proceedings related to his conduct with White House intern Monica Lewinsky. George W. Bush. George W. Bush guided the country through the aftermath of the 9/11 terrorist attacks and initiated the War on Terror, including the controversial wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. His handling of Hurricane Katrina and the financial crisis of 2008 drew considerable criticism. Bush's decisions, particularly those related to the Iraq War and its justifications, have been a central theme in evaluations of his presidency. Barack Obama. Barack Obama was the first African American to hold the office. His major accomplishments include the affordable
George W. Bush now.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So that you were talking about Barack Obama.
Because he's alive.
I used to hear of Barack Obama. I didn't know that was a president. When I was still growing up, like maybe in school, children just talking about it randomly. I did not know that was the president, Barack Obama.
Yeah, Barack.
Instead, I'm learning that he was once the president of the U.S.
Barack Hussein.
Oh, wow.
Barack Obama was the first African American to hold the office. His major accomplishments include the Affordable Care Act, which significantly expanded healthcare access and coverage, and the operation that led to the death of Osama bin Laden. His administration also faced challenges, such as the recession in 2008 to 2009, for which his policies helped stimulate economic recovery. Obama's presidency was notable for its emphasis on diplomacy, including efforts to improve relations with Cuba and the signing of the Iran nuclear deal. His tenure also saw significant movements towards social progress, including support for marriage equality. Donald Trump. Donald Trump is known for his unconventional style and direct communication through social media. His presidency focused on immigration enforcement, deregulation, and significant tax cuts. Trump's foreign policy was marked by his America First ideology, leading to renegotiations of trade deals and withdrawal from international agreements like the Paris Climate Accord and the Iran nuclear deal. His administration faced impeachment twice. Joe Biden. Joe Biden took office in January 2021 amid the COVID-19 pandemic, focusing on pandemic response, including a massive vaccination campaign and economic recovery efforts. Biden's foreign policy has aimed to restore alliances and engage with global challenges through a multilateral approach. Biden's term continues to evolve, with ongoing challenges including managing the pandemic's long-term impacts, economic inflation, intense political divisions within the country, and international instabilities. Shout out to these guys who are the first patrons that support my channel.
Wow, that's so nice. That video was super amazing.
Yeah.
33 minutes long.
Yeah, I told you now.
Dang it.
Yeah, the video was quite long.
I know somebody must have watched up to this point. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Such an amazing person. Take care of yourself. Always be happy.
Be happy.